Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for coming together to discuss the topic of proper diet. We pray for your Holy Spirit's leading, teaching, and guidance is our prayer in Jesus' name. Amen. So our topic is on proper diet. Proper diet. The cursed causeless shall not come. Proverbs chapter 26 verse 2 part B tells us that the curse without a cause shall not come to God's people. And disease never comes without a cause. Disease never comes without a cause. The definition for disease is an effort of nature to free the system from conditions that result from the violation of the laws of health. Now, what are the laws of health? They are pure air, sunlight, abstemiousness, rest, exercise, proper diet, the use of water, trust in divine power. These are the true remedies. It tells us, therefore, that there are some remedies out there that are not going to be true. And so God's true remedies are the ones that need to be applied to a diseased body in order to regain health. Now, proper nutrition is vital to good health. Therefore, it is of utmost importance that we choose wisely the food that goes on our table. Genesis 1:29 actually tells us, "And God said, Behold, I have given you every herb-bearing seed which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree in the which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for meat." After sin, God modified the diet to include the plants themselves. So Genesis 3:18 tells us, "Thorns also and thistles shall it bring forth to thee, and thou shalt eat the herb of the field." So plants include familiar types such as trees, herbs, bushes, grasses, flowers, vines, ferns. Most plants grow on the ground with stems above and roots below. So what is man's best food? In the book Counsels and Diets and Foods, page 310, article 471, we're told that grains, fruits, nuts, and vegetables constitute the diet chosen for us by our Creator. In grains, fruits, vegetables, and nuts are to be found all the food elements that we need. Counsels and Diets, page 313, article 484. Question 1. One way to know that you have a healthy diet is to be able to see a variety of colors on your plate. So to have a healthy diet, you want to have a variety of colors on your plate. So here we have a lot of colors, the greens and the oranges, the reds and yellow, and a variety of colors that are available. Our goal should be to eat at least 3 to 5 servings or more of fruits and vegetables daily. Some of that can be raw, some can be steamed, but we want to eat lots of fruits and vegetables each day. It would be much better to eat only 2 or 3 kinds or different kinds of food at a meal than to load the stomach with many varieties. It would be better to eat only 2 or 3 different kinds of food at a meal than to load the stomach with many varieties. For example, including lots of various legumes, they are treated as one kind. Use simple foods of the same kind. Proper nutrition supplies the nutrients that the cell needs. You find that food is one of the major sources for your cells to get nutrients and oxygen from your blood. And food is quite important in that. So it's what you feed your cells with, cells build up tissues, muscles, different organs, and cells are very important to maintain their health. And so having proper nutrition, not any kind of thing that you call food, will constitute proper nutrition, but proper nutrition is quite important. Now, what are the three major constituents in foods? All foods would contain protein, carbohydrates, and fats. And then there are 5 basic components of food. They're proteins, carbohydrates, fats, minerals, vitamins. And so let's have a look at protein. Proteins, a definition of protein is that proteins are broken down by the body and converted amino acids, which are the building blocks for hormones, enzymes, and structural components of the body, such as muscle tissue. The proteins are broken down by the body and converted into amino acids, which are the building blocks for hormones, enzymes, and structural compounds of the body, such as muscle tissue. Now, protein actually acts in the formation of antibodies. So you want to build your immune system, even when it comes to building muscles and tissues and just having size. You know, protein is quite important. It's the building block for those things. So it also helps to maintain the acid-alkaline balance within the body. Protein is also a source of heat and energy. So it's important to have adequate protein. Protein also helps to prevent swelling or edema in the body. So protein is quite important to have as a constituent in the food. So when protein is low, you can have a lot of problems. But protein begins digestion in the mouth, continues in the stomach, and completes in the small intestines, where amino acids are then absorbed into the bloodstream. So there are types of amino acids. Some are essential, and most of it comes from the diet, and some are non-essential, and that can be made by the body. There are actually about 20 amino acids, and there are only 8 of them, that are 8 of them that are non-essential. So lots of it comes from the food that we eat, and so it's quite important that we have our healthy plate. So it's recommended that for an adult, the recommended daily allowance for an adult is 0.75 grams for our body weight, and then for infants, the recommended daily allowance is 1.5 grams of protein to match the body weight per kilogram of the body weight, and so for the adult, 0.75 grams per kilogram of body weight. So the health effects of too little protein. If you don't have enough protein, you can experience diarrhea, vomiting, protein energy malnutrition such as marasmus, or you can also have like edema, swelling in the body at different points. But what about if you have too much protein? You can suffer from heart disease, osteoporosis. And in looking at osteoporosis here, where you have bone-related issues, recognize that in order for protein to be digested, you do need calcium. And if you do not have adequate amount of calcium in your diet, the body actually has its own way of finding calcium. And so it will find calcium anywhere in the body, and it's going to take it in order to digest this protein food. So if you're having large amounts of protein, it's important that you have a balanced diet. So say, for example, you're eating large amounts of protein as in flesh foods, and you're not having your greens in order to get calcium, then that can be a big problem, because the body is going to take calcium from your bones, and soon enough you're going to have bone-related issues. Another effect of too much protein is cancer, obesity, gout, female diseases, kidney problems, because of too much protein affects the kidney count and the kidney tissues. So what is the number one source of protein on the face of the earth? What do you think? Is it some big mammal? Let's see. It's actually a food, and one that's called soybean. So soybean is the number one source of protein. It is rich in protein compared to other beans or even any animal on the face of the earth. In soybean, if you measure gram per gram, comparing, it will trump that of other sources of foods. So other rich sources of foods in protein would be like lentils, mung beans, amaranth, whole grain bread, tofu, baked potatoes, spinach. And we actually have listed non-flesh food items here. So lots of individuals think, well, in order for me to have protein adequate amount, I must eat some flesh. And that's not true. You do get it in your legumes, and you can get it in your green leafy. The spinach has protein, the baked potato. In fact, all foods will have protein in it as carbohydrates and fats. But if for greater amounts of protein, these are some good foods in which you can get protein from. So as you eat it, the body will utilize it, breaking it down into the amino acids, putting it in a form in which the body would be able to get benefit from it. Now, another major component of food is carbohydrates. And where can we get this from? So a definition of carbohydrates. Sources of carbohydrates are from starches, sugars, and fibers. Starch and sugar, they are converted into glucose, which is the body's main fuel. Fiber, found primarily in plant foods, acts as a bulking agent that helps keep the intestines clean. So fiber actually sweep your intestines. Carbohydrates begin digestion in the mouth, pauses a while in the stomach, and ends in the small intestines, where it is absorbed into the bloodstream. Excess carbohydrates is stored as glycogen in the liver and muscle. Excess carbohydrates, and so that's why you find that your liver stores this glycogen, and after a meal, you feel great, but hours pass, and then your blood sugar within, it starts to dip on you lower, and so the liver is now able to spill that sugar back into the bloodstream. Notice too that the muscles also takes in some of this carbohydrates. So walking is another way in which it can help you to build back up your blood sugar level. So carbohydrates supply the energy that the cells need. Carbohydrates supply the energy that the cells need. Carbohydrate is like a major fuel of energy that the body would utilize to be energized. So when the body lacks nutrients, it tells in one way or another. So if it is that you have white spots on the nails, it indicates a deficiency in what? Zinc, as well as iron, calcium, and biotin. Lines on the nails indicate adrenal gland fatigue. So let's look at some food sources of getting zinc, iron, calcium, and biotin. So zinc you can get if you eat pumpkin seeds. And that's why it's quite important for men to eat pumpkin seeds so that the zinc will help with their prostate gland in terms of keeping it at the right size. If they lack zinc, that can be an issue. Women also need zinc. Zinc is helpful for good vision, for the skin, and so pumpkin seeds are very nutritious to the body. Wheat germ, sesame seed, cashew, soybean, Brazil nuts, pine nuts, oats. Iron is another food source. Where can we get foods? Fenugreek. So if you're anemic, iron deficient, here you can use fenugreek that helps to build up your iron levels really quickly. Dried spirulina, blackstrap molasses, soybean, sesame seeds, bran, or lentils. These are great food sources of iron. What about food sources for calcium? Sesame seeds, blackstrap molasses, carob powder, soybean, almond nuts, blackcurrant, cabbage. These are excellent for building up calcium. So for bone and getting that calcium buildup. If you walk as an exercise, your calcium levels can also be increased because every time the feet hits the ground, it triggers the absorption of calcium in the body. So eating the foods, one law of health, proper diet, but exercise, another law of health, correlates in order to give you adequate amounts of calcium that you need for your bones, as well as your blood and other areas. Biotin, you can, intestinal bacteria, good bacteria, will help improve biotin. Brewer's yeast, soybean, spinach, and these things again are great for the skin and also our nails. The nail is actually an extension of the skin, so the zinc, the iron, the calcium, and biotin, by having adequate amounts of that in a diet, it improves the skin. So you can use natural whole grain bread as a source for carbohydrates. And you can use natural whole grain bread as a source for carbohydrates. So if we looked at the anatomy of a grain, you have the bran or fiber, you have the endosperm, that's the center portion, protein area, and then you have the embryo or the germ, and that's what is actually stripped and sold as meat germ, and the bran or fiber is stripped and sold as bran. And that's why if you had rice and you had white rice, it's actually stripped of the bran or fiber or the germ, and all you have is this white protein substance that's left in the middle. You're actually not going to get all the nutrients that you can get from the whole food, the whole grain. So it's important that we eat the whole grain in order to get the best nutrients from our food. So brown rice has phytic acid in it, or IP6 inositol hexaphosphate in the bran that prevents the absorption of what? Of copper, enzymes such as pepsin, amylase, and trypsin, and other minerals such as zinc, calcium, iron, and magnesium. Phytic acid will prevent the absorption of these things. So it is important for us to prepare that brown rice properly, or any grain and legume the phytic acid is within the fiber, the hull, the husk, the skin of these foods, and so if by eating large amounts of it will cause mineral deficiencies. We can tolerate about 400 milligrams per day, but not getting more than that in our diet on our plate can cause an adverse reaction. We do need phytic acid because it helps to fight cancer, build our immune system. It's a natural antioxidant. But when we go over a certain limit, we need to be able to break that down in the preparation of our food. Therefore, grains should be cooked for at least how many hours? 3 hours. So at least 3 hours of cooking, either you're baking, you're toasting, or you're steaming your grains or on low heat on a stove top, or in your crock pot you're cooking, or in your rice cooker you're cooking your grains and your legumes, but at least 3 hours it should be cooked for. So here we have phytic acid, or IP6, or inositol hexaphosphate in grains, beans, nuts, and seeds, helps to fight cancer. Fruits are another source of carbohydrates that contain phytochemicals, enzymes, antioxidants, and fiber, which are essential to fighting cancer. So fruits contain what? Phytochemicals, enzymes, antioxidants, and fiber. So let's look at fats. Definition for fats. Fats are the most concentrated form of energy, supplying over twice as many calories per gram than protein or carbohydrates. It can also be efficiently stored for later use. The 3 natural types of fats are monounsaturated, polyunsaturated, and saturated as different forms or types of fats. So the unsaturated fats are by far the healthiest form, especially when it comes from plant sources. Diets rich in refined saturated fats have been linked to numerous diseases. Fats begin digestion in the mouth because you do have some lipase there, that enzyme, so it begins a little digestion, but it pauses in the stomach. It continues hugely within the small intestine where it is then transported throughout the body in your blood to get to the cells and the liver. In the small intestine, you find that the fat is now broken down by bile that is produced by your liver. You may have some stored in your gallbladder, and also the pancreas helps with producing some bile as well to get to break down the fat foods that you would eat. Fats are a major source of energy. When at rest, the muscles prefer to use fat for fuel. So when at rest, the muscles prefer to use fat as fuel, for its fuel. It acts as a carrier for fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E, K, and it provides essential fatty acids needed for growth, health, and smooth skin. Low-fat diet or inability to assimilate fat results in eczema and disorder of skin and hair. So there are like omega-3 fatty acids, alpha-linolic acid or ALA, and what does that do to our bodies? One, it decreases the stickiness of blood platelets. It helps reduce high blood pressure. It reduces some form of inflammation, example, arthritis. Common food sources will be like chia seed, flaxseed, wheat germ oil. You have green soybeans, edamame, a delicious soybean that you can eat. Green, and you get what, omega-3 from that. Green leafy vegetables, avocados, walnuts, pumpkin seeds, all these are different sources of omega-3. Then you have omega-6 fatty acids, gamma lanolic acid, or GLA. GLA is the primary source of omega-6 family. The body can produce all the other needed omega-6 if lanolic acid is present, or from arachidonic acid. And so you can also get some common sources would be like evening primrose oil, corn, safflower, sunflower seeds, soybean, and cottonseed oils. Be careful with cottonseed oil and even the soybean and the corn that it is organic. Make sure it's organic and not genetically modified. Raw nuts, pistachios, and sunflower seeds are also other sources of omega-6 fatty acids. Arachidonic acid is found in meats or can be made from lanolic acid itself within the body. So unlike omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids, omega-9 fatty acids are not classified as essential fatty acids because the body can make it. And so it's found in olives and sesame oil, peanuts, almonds, pecans, cashews, and hazelnuts, and macadamia nuts. You get omega-9 fatty acids. So the body can make it, but it's good if you eat these foods. You're not only getting omega-9, but you're going to get lots of other nutrients from it, lots of minerals and so forth from these nuts and seeds. Practical application, take 1 to 2 tablespoons of, say, olive oil, extra virgin olive oil, if it is that you want to improve your omega-9 fatty acids. For example, if you're not making it well and you wanted to improve it. A good source of fats are nuts. A good source of fats are nuts. You measure the daily intake by a closed handful. So we want at the end of each meal for breakfast and lunch, not for your evening supper. No nuts would be taken then, but at the end of your breakfast and your lunch, you can have a close handful of nuts, and that would be adequate amount for getting a good source of fats in your diet. So fats are best used at the end of the meal to close the appetite, and fats take longer to digest, so it actually helps you to transition to the next meal without your blood sugar level falling low on you, without you feeling hungry in between your meals. So in between your meals, you drink water, and having that fat at the end of the meal helps to sustain you until your next meal time. And so some of that fat, remember, the nuts at the end of the meal. So at the end, example of fat at the end of the meal is like nuts. Some people who use olive oil may put that on their food or in a slice of bread, or you can also have like a natural nut butter on a slice of, or two of bread. You can also have coconut, the dried coconut, the white jelly part that's dried, and that can act as fat at the end of your meal. So we do have like vitamins and minerals. Let's look at some vitamins. So vitamins and minerals are essential components of our diet. Whole foods which have been refined as little as possible naturally contain the highest amounts of these nutrients, vitamins and minerals. Phytochemicals found only in plants are added bonuses thought to play a role in the prevention of many diseases. So fat-soluble vitamins, they are A, D, E, K, fat-soluble vitamins. they are absorbed where in the small intestines like fat into the lymphatic system. Okay, and they're stored in larger quantities. Therefore, toxicity may occur, and they may have precursors unless vulnerable. They're less vulnerable to cooking losses, the vitamins A, D, E, and K. So let's have a look at vitamin A. The function of vitamin A is vision, cell development, reproduction, immunity, and growth. So vitamin A is important for our vision, for cellular development, reproduction, immunity, and growth. Food sources of vitamin A. You find that performed vitamin A, you have carotenes and carotenoids. They're mainly all red, yellow, and orange fruits and vegetables. So carrots, the peppers, the dark green spinach, so anything, the yellow pumpkin and so forth, they're great in vitamin A. Deficiency symptoms of vitamin A: vision disorders, dry skin, fetal development disorders. Who has an increased need? Growing children, adolescents, pregnant and nursing women has an increased need for vitamin A. Note that it is always important when it comes to the vitamins and minerals that if we were to supplement with these items, it's a supplement like taking a pill as a supplement for our vitamin A, you can have high amounts of vitamin A within one capsule. Now understand that these vitamins, they store in large amounts. Taking a large amount in your supplement can cause toxic reactions within the body. You're taking it every day. Now, another thing too with these vitamins is that if you were to take them as a supplement, you have this concentrated amount, say, of vitamin E, like 25,000 IUs of vitamin E. And if you were to take that, in order for you to get that amount, you'd have to eat lots of carrots or lots of pumpkin and so forth, in order for you to get that amount in a day. But the other thing too is that when eaten in a food, you do have coenzymes in that food, other nutrients in that food that help the body with the absorption of vitamin E within the body. So you're actually going to get lots more vitamin A nutrients within the body if you were to take it from a food source as compared to if you were to take it from a supplemental source. When lots of the times you take supplements and for one specific vitamin or a mineral, and what it does, it actually creates a deficiency in the body because you have high concentration of vitamin A, but if it needed D and E and K vitamins in order for it to work well, in a supplement you may not have those other vitamins in order for the A to work well in the body and for the body to recognize it and for it to have its beneficial effect in the body. So what you can do after a while, because of taking this thing, is that you create a deficiency of the very vitamin you're trying to get, that vitamin A, because you don't have the supporters of the D, E, and K in order to help it to work well. And so that sometimes you see individuals who say, well, I'm taking a vitamin A supplement, and I have to take the D, and I have to take the E, and I have to take the K, and you end up with like about 4 capsules in your hand to take why not eat the whole food itself and you get everything in there? So whole foods eaten whole gives you a lot more spread of vitamins, of minerals, as compared to when you have these isolated vitamins or minerals without the supporters, without the coenzymes, or these cofactors to help them in their absorption in the body, and then you're creating a deficiency of that particular vitamin. So let's try and get it from the food. So vitamin D, it's made in the skin from cholesterol. It's important in the manufacturing of vitamin D, which is then activated in liver and the kidney. You find that for vitamin D, the function would be to regulate blood calcium levels. That is essential for bone and health development and strengthening of the bone and the strengthening of the body and muscle tissues and so forth. So vitamin D is quite essential. A deficiency in vitamin D can cause what? Rickets in children, osteomalacia, osteoporosis in adults, any bone-related issues, cancer, autoimmune disorders, simply because of a lack of vitamin D. Hundreds of other diseases can come about the body if you are deficient in vitamin D. How do we get vitamin D? Getting sunlight. You put your body out in the sun, and that will help you to make vitamin D. As the body gets exposed to the sun, there's a layer of cholesterol right under the skin that acts as a precursor to signal to the body to take this, hormone is released, and so it goes to your kidneys, to your liver, and then your kidneys to activate it, make it in a form for the body to use. So if you are a light-skinned individual, there's an error right here. It actually means, what's that? 30 minutes, light-skinned individuals or Caucasian individuals, you would need like about 10 to 15 minutes of sunlight exposure. Some may go up to 30, but I mean, depending on the height of the sun would determine how long you stay out into the sun. But darker skinned individuals need about 6 times more than the Caucasian light-skinned individuals. So darker skinned individuals would require 45 minutes to an hour and a half of sunlight exposure daily. So when you go out into the sun and you stand, the closer your shadow is to you, the better it is for making adequate amounts of vitamin D. Earlier hours such as 9 and 3, you can make it, but you will have to stay out into the sunlight longer than if you went out in the midst of the day. So I particularly like between the hours of 10 and 2, and different societies around the world, different countries around the world will have their UVB rays up to a certain point where you can be able to make that vitamin D adequately. You actually need that sunlight to be 30 degrees, the sun itself to be at an angle 30 degrees and above in order for you to get the adequate amount of sunlight to the body in order for you to make vitamin D. So if the sun is lower, you do have sunlight, yes, but it's not going to trigger the production of vitamin D in the body. It will not. This has been tested so many times, and so the sun must be at an angle 30 degrees and above. So that's why we have timings between 10 and 2. In some countries, like the UK, for example, they may, in a given day over the winter season, they may get like about 2 hours only when their sun is above 30 degrees. Their sun might go 32 or 38 degrees up high and be within that range, 30 to 38 for 2 hours, and that's it for that day. So if they were not outside, if there were no clouds, if the sun was really shining bright, great, they'll make it. But if it's not, though the sun is up high, and if you have smog, if you have it's a cloudy day, it's raining, you know, and you're not going to get, you can't put your body out there if it's raining. But if you were outside and it's cloudy, still you would not be able to make it. So you do need the direct sunlight on the body, not through a glass. You may be in through and get that light coming in through a window, but an open window, but not through the glass. So sources of, so if you do supplement, which is what individuals would need to do in this case, if you're not making adequate amounts of vitamin D. If you choose to use an oral vitamin D supplement, there are basically 2 types. The natural one is D3, cholecalciferol, which is the same vitamin D your body makes when you are exposed to sunshine. And the synthetic one, well, it's more a plant-based one, which is vitamin D2, which is sometimes called ergocalciferol, and it comes from plants. And in that way, you would get it. But note that in either way, you take the supplements and then your body converts it into an active form that your cells would be able to utilize it. Understand too that every cell in your body has a receptor site for 2 hormones. That is the vitamin D hormone, it's actually a hormone, and the thyroid hormone, where vitamin D3 is converted 500% times faster than vitamin D2. So your supplement dosage with vitamin D2 will always be higher than the supplement dosage for vitamin D3. So some individuals would say, well, there are food sources that for vitamin D. It's never enough for what foods might be fortified with vitamin D, but it's never enough for the human body. So making it, having a good supplement, and remember, in order for the D to be activated, you do need E. So some fats, it's a fat-soluble vitamin, so you do need E, vitamin E. You also need vitamin K, vitamin A, in order for the D to function. So the whole ADIC, fat-soluble vitamins, A, D, E, K, ADIC, they all correlate and need each other in order to be optimized within the body. Vitamin E functions would be to protect integrity of the cells and their lifespan. You have antioxidant, protect cell membranes from free radicals. That's quite important. Vitamin E is an antioxidant and would protect your cells from free radical damages. And then vitamin E also helps protect against cancer and atherosclerosis, which is thickening of the plaque within the blood vessels or your arteries. Food sources of vitamin E: avocado, wheat germs, sunflower seeds, oil-bearing seeds and nuts, olives, mangoes are great in vitamin E. Deficiency in vitamin E can be damage to red blood cells, anemia, impairment to immune response in the body. So your body immune system is actually lowered if you are deficient in vitamin E. Too much vitamin E. So if you're getting too much from the food source or you're supplementing and it's way too high, you can have muscle weakness, fatigue, nausea, diarrhea, and it inhibits blood clotting. So if you have too much excess vitamin E, you have your blood that can be quite thin, and it would not be able to clot if you should need it to clot. Muscle weakness is also quite interesting, as a lot of people complain about feeling weak, fatigued, and so forth. Check your vitamin E level intake of your vitamin E foods. So vitamin K functions, blood clotting, formation of bone. Good sources would be green vegetables. At one point, we were talking with a young lady who said, I have a problem. My blood just would not clot. And it was like, okay, how much greens do you eat? Vegetables do you eat? So I was like, what are you talking about? Vegetables I don't eat. And so for the lack of eating her green leafy foods, she had a condition where her blood was not clotting. And so, she was advised to start eating her vegetables and start eating her green leafy foods, which was so important to her health. So a deficiency it's rare in healthy people, and it increases the risk of hemorrhage, in internal bleeding within the body. So an excess can interfere with anticoagulant medications as well. So if you have some condition and you're on blood thinners, then you may be told, well, watch the amount of greens that you take. But that's just in excess. It doesn't mean to say you have to stay away from the green leafy foods altogether. Next, we have some water-soluble vitamins. Water-soluble vitamins, vitamin B, the B vitamins, the vitamin C, water-soluble vitamins are also absorbed into the bloodstream. They're stored in small amounts, and they're vulnerable to cooking losses. The B vitamins actually act primarily as coenzymes. They work as catalysts. They function in energy-producing metabolic reactions. And so we have a range of B vitamins. So we have thiamine or vitamin B1. The functions of vitamin B1 is a coenzyme in energy metabolism. It helps to stabilize the neurotransmitters in our brain. So B vitamins, if you do want good brain function, make sure that you have some food sources. The foods you can get whole and enriched grains, legumes, nuts, sunflower, seeds, wheat germ, pine nuts, Brazil nuts, soybean, pecan, sesame, oats, chickpea. You get good source of B1. Deficiency will be Parkinson's disease, beriberi, nervous, digestive, circulatory disorders, cataract. One thing I want to mention here is that as we go through these different food sources, you would see a lot of them repeated. I think you can actually make up your grocery list from the food sources of these vitamins and minerals and so forth, protein, carbohydrates, and fats. And in that way, you will have a good array of food items within your cupboard for you to prepare and to utilize on a daily basis so that you are able to get adequate nutrition. And a lot of times that's where we fall short in, when we talk about eating healthy. And it's always easier to recognize individuals who are eating healthy because you're more selective with what you put into your body. And while that's good, if we only have a narrow group of food that we're using, then we can become deficient in other areas because we're not having the wide variety of foods. So whereas some of these foods are repeated, great. So say for example, the sunflower seeds, you have some B vitamins, but you also have some fat in there, and some of those minerals in there and so forth in your sunflower seeds. Then okay, having sunflower seeds within my cupboards and eating them is going to be helpful. Pumpkin seeds, we talk about it being good for zinc, but we see it again coming up in another vitamin, and so and it's there for minerals, for magnesium and so forth. So pumpkin seed is something that I should have, and not say I have my range of foods, but I am lacking my pumpkin seeds, if you get what I'm saying. So look at these foods and try and have them and utilize them over the course of your week, and so that you can get the benefits that they have to offer. These foods are like packaged nutrients that the Lord has given to us. Man cannot make them. Like to make a pumpkin seed, something so small that it's so nutritious, or a sesame seed. Look, sesame seed has B vitamins in it, but it's so nutritious to our nerves and to our brain and to our cells. And man can't do that. Our tablets are like really bigger than a sesame seed. You do need large, good amount, like a tablespoon or so, but they're great. The food is great, and so we need to love and appreciate the foods that are available, that God has provided. Let's look at vitamin B2, or riboflavin. So a function of vitamin B2 within the body is that it is a coenzyme in energy metabolism, how you utilize your energy. It's necessary in all chemical reactions in which energy is produced in the body, and it supports antioxidants. Food sources will be soybean, bran, wheat germ, buckwheat, chickpea, oats, popcorn. A deficiency, you can have fatigue, weakness, apathy, vision disorders, skin eruptions, anemia. So on a weekly basis, try and have some organic soybean, try and have some chickpea, try and have some oats or wheat germ, whatever it is, buckwheat, great. Don't use the brown rice all the time, change it up. Have some buckwheat, have some millet, have some amaranth, some quinoa, a range of these other grains, and then you can go to your tubers and have those things within your week, and you would be gaining a lot more nutrition from them. So vitamin B3 or niacin function it's a coenzyme. Okay, so it doesn't work on its own, but along with some other factors, it helps in producing energy within our cells. So we may feel fatigued and tired. Why? Because our mitochondria is not working well within our cells. Mitochondria is like the energy bunny within our cells. And sometimes if we don't feed it well, we can be very fatigued and lethargic. And so it's important for us to energize ourselves, and one way is having adequate amount of niacin, vitamin B3. So it's necessary for body growth. It supports fatty acid synthesis. So just the breakdown of your fatty acids, and it reduces cholesterol levels. But where can we get this great B3 vitamin? In our whole and enriched grains, bran, peanut butter, wheat germ, sesame seed, buckwheat, almond, dates, tofu, avocado, corn. These are great sources of getting the vitamin B3. If you do have a deficiency, you can have skin disorders, dermatitis, pellagra, nervous system disorders, depression, anxiety, such as depression and anxiety. So B3 is quite helpful in this. If you can have toxicity if you use high doses to treat high blood cholesterol. So niacin or B3 supplements would usually can put you in a toxic range if you don't have a low dose. And so if by using the foods again is one of those ways to avoid toxicity. Side effects would be skin flushing, liver damage if we're using too much. Next we have pantothenic acid. Pantothenic acid to function would be component of coenzyme E. So this helps with the E gaining the benefit of our vitamin E. Food sources would be a widespread of foods deficiency is rare. So that's just another water-soluble vitamin. Biotin is another water-soluble vitamin. And notice water-soluble. Before we talked about fat-solubles, fat-solubles actually need fat in order to help them to be enhanced in the body and absorbed well. But these water-soluble vitamins do not really need the fat intake at the time. So amino acid metabolism, fatty acid synthesis, DNA to break, and to maintain the integrity of your DNA within your cell. Then to support healthy hair, skin, and nails, biotin is important. So where can we get it? At a food source. Cauliflower in liver, and this is not that we're promoting liver, but just from a pure, item of what people eat as food. It's listed here in case somebody challenge you and they say, but in liver I get enough biotin. Okay, we recognize that. But you can also get it in proteins, in cheese. Deficiency and toxicity is rare in vitamin, again, because most times it's within the food that you would get this. Another water-soluble vitamin is B6, and this is quite important even in fighting cancer. You find that, cancer individuals who tend to treat cancer would say, okay, get B6. So what does B6 actually do, again, within the body? It's a coenzyme in protein and amino acid metabolism. So you see, again, why foods, they all help in help each other. And this is with your intake within a day. So you can have certain kinds of food for breakfast and a different kind for lunch. If you were to eat the same food for breakfast, the same food for lunch, and you repeat the same food tomorrow and the next day and the next, you're not getting a wide variety, a wide range of foods in order for you to get adequate amount of nutrition. So here we have B6, but it's connected in helping protein and amino acid absorption within the body. So metabolism of carbohydrates and fats again. Energy production within the cells of the nervous system. So I guess it keeps you energized and awake and alert. B6 is quite important for blood formation, involved in the production of making hemoglobin that forms the red blood cells. So if it is that your red blood cell count is low, getting adequate amount of B6 through the food source is going to help you with that. Support immune system, so it helps in maintaining a healthy immune system. It's especially needed by women taking oral contraceptives because the contraceptive plays down certain vitamins and minerals within the body. Then if you're pregnant or you're a nursing woman, B6 is quite important. So even if you're a growing woman, B6 is very much important, especially a lot of our women can be anemic, and so you do need more of your hemoglobin, and you may rush for a supplement. But what about your food? Are you having adequate amounts here? And just to recognize too how it energizes the cell. So if you're one where you feel fatigued and tired and sleepy all the time, then you may be low on your B6. But again, look at your diet. And if you're not having any of these food sources or any other food source with vitamin B6, you will become deficient in it, and you will have effects such as not being energized, and your nervous system not working well, and your immune system is low, and you have low red blood count. And it's just crazy. So we do need to use our food in order to benefit and have a healthy body. So food sources for vitamin B6: bran, wheat germ, garlic, sesame seed, blackstrap molasses, bananas, chickpea, whole grain rice, avocado, potatoes, sunflower seeds. These are just some food sources highlighted here. If you're deficient, microcytic hypochromic anemia, big words, you're anemic, and fatigue, so tired all the time, nervousness. Some people think, that they really feel nervous all the time. Let them have some like blackstrap molasses if they're not diabetic. But if they are diabetic, then what? Sesame seed, they may have wheat germ, chickpea, great. Whole grain brown rice, it's excellent. So skin disorders, again, lacking in your B vitamins. Toxicity, it can cause permanent nerve damage if you're taking high doses of it in a supplemental form. So folate, function would be that folate it is a coenzyme in DNA synthesis and cell division. So this is very important to make sure that you have adequate amounts of folate. It can help in the prevention of cancer. Understand that when you have cancer, the DNA in the cells lacks differentiation. DNA actually tells your cells what kind of cell they are. So if it's a cell, you are a liver cell. And that's all you're ever going to be, a liver cell. And they're happy to be specific, and they multiply themselves, and they're great, and they produce and they do their work as a liver cell. However, if you were to be exposed, to something, some germ or so that causes disruption in your DNA, and then you find that your DNA is now disrupted, and that cell is being divided and so forth. Folate is one way to maintain that. Then you can have cancer if you have disrupted DNA. But folate is one way to maintain your cell integrity, to make sure that your cell can divide properly and keep its identity and not lose that. So it helps in cellular division. It also helps, it's needed for normal red blood cell manufacture synthesis. And so let's see what folate would increase need for folate if you are in your growth years, your adolescent years, young children, women who take contraceptives, if you're pregnant, persons at risk for heart attack need adequate amount of folate. If you are anemic, because folate deficiency is a form of anemia. So you have iron anemia, folate anemia is also another one. And then you have B12 anemia when you're B12 deficient. And so if you do identify which of those three forms of anemia you have, then you'd be better able to target improving that situation by, say, if you have folate anemia, then you improve the folate intake within your foods. Intestinal parasitosis. So if you have parasites, folate's going to help as part of, getting rid of them. And then alcohol consumption, you would have an increased need of folate for your body to deal with excreting the toxins from that alcohol. So food sources would be like mung bean, azuki, which is a form of soy, chickpea, lentils, wheat germ, spinach, kelp, K-E-L-P. It's a seaweed vegetable, and that's great in folate as well as iodine. So again, if you're anemic, having folate, having kelp will help. Lettuce, asparagus, red beets, artichoke, walnuts, peas, green leafy vegetables, orange juice, legumes, whole grain bread. Now, if you are deficient, then you can have what megaloblastic anemia, and this is also consistent with individuals who are on metformin for their diabetes. After 29 weeks, they will become anemic in this. So for our diabetics, make sure you're eating some of these foods, the chickpeas, the lentils, the spinach, and so forth. These foods are really great. And then you also have mental retardation. You can have women of childbearing age if you're deficient in folate, you can have some different conditions. So if you're a woman of childbearing age, you do need more folate. If you're pregnant, you do need more folate, and even the supplements for pregnancy, you see folate being part of that. If you have too much of it and it becomes toxic in the body, it would mask vitamin B12 deficiency. So you could actually be deficient in B12, but it's not really showing up. Now, okay, so these are some of the foods, and it's important for us to prevent deficiency in these areas. Oh, so there are some individuals who would be placed on a special diet for allergies or inflammation and so forth. And there may be some foods where we would say to them, stay away from these foods because of allergic reactions. So walnut is on that list, and soybean is on that list. Wheat germ is on that list to stay away from, especially, So in so doing, whole grain bread, if it comes from wheat, rye, barley, spelt, we may ask you to stay away from that. But don't despair. There are other ways in which you can get your folate. There are other ways in which you can get your minerals and your vitamins. So it's important for you to recognize these foods and their great potential and actually utilize the wider range of foods. B12 comes from a bacteria. It's usually found in the mouth and produced in the intestines. Function needed for normal folate function, DNA and red blood cell synthesis. B12 is needed to maintain myelin sheath that surrounds the nerves. And if your myelin sheath surrounding your nerves are depleted, then it can be very painful, and you can get, you find individuals with MS, multiple sclerosis, actually are challenged with having a withdrawn myelin sheet around their nerves. And so B12 is quite helpful if you were to have this. Now, where do we get B12 from? We actually make it. It is a bacteria that is produced by our gut, and it's usually found in our mouth in the morning time. That's why when you wake up in the morning, the first thing to do is not just to spit out and wash out your mouth, but actually to drink your water. So drinking your water first thing in the morning helps to recycle that B12. If you use things like Listerine, that kills 99.99% germs, B12 is a bacteria. Bacteria is a form of germ, and Listerine or other mouthwashes along that line will kill the B12 in your mouth. So let us try, to maintain some good health habits. Drink your water, and having a healthy gut flora will help you in producing the B12. Also, if it is that you digest proteins well, it would help you to produce B12. There are food sources with B12, spirulina, soybeans, spinach, barley, those foods that grow close to the soil. If there's B12 in the soil, it will uptake into the foods. Again, animal sources are just listed here for, just knowledge purposes. So in animals, meat, liver, milk, eggs, they carry B12 with them. But watch this. We are part of the animal kingdom, having animal-like cells, and we produce. Where do you think the animals get it from anyway? They make it. And then if human beings eat them, okay, you get the B12 that's within the tissue or the milk of these animals. But why are you taking it secondhand when you can make it? But again, we need to treat our bodies well so that we can make B12. If we are deficient in B12, you can suffer pernicious anemia, megaballistic anemia, and have nerve damage. Vitamin C function would be that vitamin C is essential as an antioxidant, neutralizing free radicals, DNA deterioration, and cancer. So individuals who have cancer, you find it's important for vitamin C to be within their treatment. Vitamin C also helps with breaking down your DNA and for it to lack differentiation. Again, vitamin C is so important in preventing cancer formation within the body. So it also helps to neutralize any free radicals within the body. And free radicals are cells that actually get damaged, and they don't act and function normal in a normal scheme of things. And because of exposures to that poor bad air pollution, radiation, those things can cause free radical damage within the body. Another benefit of vitamin C is that antitoxin. It neutralizes the action of a variety of toxic substances. It strengthens the immune system against infections, and it's needed for collagen synthesis necessary for healing your wounds. So vitamin C is quite helpful with that. It improves the consistency of bone and teeth, and it strengthens capillary and arterial walls. So if the walls of your arteries, the walls of your blood vessels, and your capillaries, vitamin C is important in this. It's also great for your skin and so forth. So get vitamin C. If you have nicotine addiction, vitamin C will help with breaking that addiction. And then you find that you have an increased need if you have that nicotine addiction. Stress if you're stressed, you do need more vitamin C. If you have infections, you need more vitamin C. If you have wounds or burns, you do need more vitamin C. So food sources will be citrus, acerola cherries. You know those red West Indian cherries? We know lemon has vitamin C, but the acerola red cherries, they have 50 times more vitamin C than the lemon. So they're really rich in vitamin C. They're like a powerhouse for it. Sweet peppers, guava, blackcurrant, kiwi, strawberries, orange, lemon, tomatoes, vitamin C. In our vegetables, we do also have broccoli, cabbage have vitamin C. You find too that cassavas and potatoes, they do have vitamin C. So if you are deficient, you can be fatigued, you can have poor healing of your wounds, scurvy you may experience. Too much of it, however, can cause GI tract disorders and distress if you have high amounts of it. And again, that would only come if you're supplementing. So that's why when you're supplementing, try and get like a natural supplement like rose hip or camu, where the vitamin C is not isolated, but the compound in itself is just loaded with vitamin C. That's what it is. It's vitamin C. An orange is equivalent to 50 milligrams of vitamin C as a supplement. So we want to stop here and then continue on the next day, where we would look at some more nutrients within the body. Let us pray to close. Heavenly Father, we thank you for what we were able to achieve at this time, and we pray for your continued guidance and edification of our minds, and may what we have learned here be applied in our lives, that we eat the right foods in order to gain the right nutrients for healthy bodies, is our prayer in Jesus' name. Amen.